Well, gonna grab some. Milligrams. And hi y'all. How's it going?
It's really strange because if I did this at night,
I'd be getting all kinds of views because that's when the world wakes up. We're walking. We're gonna walk now. We're just easing in on the full day training. I gotta admit, the days are getting a lot shorter as far as training goes. We're airing that room out though. A lot more condensed. I'm not even sure what channel I'm on, but I'm pretty sure it's 1013 consensus. Let's get a little bit of water here.
because they're sticking right in my throat.
So I'm getting bigger, fuller. That's the direction that I decided to go in, as opposed to just getting super lean and just trying to shrink. Like what happened was I got a lot of definition, as you can see in those videos from last year, but the overall effects, I just kept shrinking and feeling like my metabolism was going crazy. I think I was hitting close to 150. So we're gonna start out with some beef liver. What I do is I cook for the entire week a whole pound of beef liver, right? And I take in very little beef liver, like every day. I don't want to get overly toxic on it. I've tried to help people, even my son, but my younger son doesn't listen to me at all anymore. And either you're gonna get up and go
And be a warrior, or you're not.
I overdid it on coffee yesterday. But everyday TRX training at this point, gonna be 56 years old. No magic tricks. So I cooked this beef liver in olive oil. What you're seeing here is biohacking on a shoestring. Got a few items to sell on Facebook. I'm all in. Again, just waking up, and I think I'm gonna hit the second cup of coffee off the same pod. Let's leave it there, let's do 2 cups. Gonna do about 10,000 milligrams or of trimethylglycine, and then we're doing about 40 drops on that a day, a little more. When you're on carnivore, ACV, apple cider vinegar, a little goes a long way. You don't need to do as much as they say. In fact, what I've found
Is underdose on just about everything.
I did a deep dive on cinnamon. I put it up on my blog, Rugby's Warrior RBW. There's 2 blogs. The other one I don't really use much, but I may. The other thing is cinnamon. Cinnamon, a lot of great medicinal effects. Great for energy and blood flow. Something else that you really need to consider is, why do you put milk in your coffee? When you get that magnesium flavor, right? When you get that boron in there, this literally tastes like milk. Put this just in water. Put about 30 drops in there and tell me you're not drinking milk. All right, so we're using in. I may be doing this walk for an hour. I might be doing it for 20 minutes. I don't know. But the goal is to get like 2 or 3 miles. I know that it's a lot more entertaining for people when I go outside, but it really is exhausting because it's like, this is the weird thing, is that the air makes me feel exhausted. I don't care about, like, I phase out the people, but I'm sure that subconsciously that creates some sort of stress, right? But I don't stress about the people out there. There's not anything happening. I mean, even the weed whacker in the background when I showed my last training video, that's not even an issue. You know, because I have this, I'm using my son's soundbite here, so that's not an issue. The main issue is just the stress from the false pseudo sunlight and the weird air out there, right? I almost feel like I can breathe better inside. But have you had this similar condition where you just feel breathless? Have you felt that way? To me, it's kind of bizarre, you know? So we'll be putting a link up on Rope Beast Warrior for this. If people choose to, we'll just put it under community posts. Ooh, I forgot the cinnamon. And yeah, be sure to look up the deep dive on cinnamon. We're gonna put some cinnamon in that coffee. We got some, in case you're just skipping forward or tuning in late, we did a little bit of that. Right, so yeah, it adds an instant sweet flavor, especially that combination. Just buying Walmart coffee, everything's Walmart. I mean, we got a Walmart treasure trove here. Got Walmart chicken, 3 more here. These are huge. Walmart bacon. Even for the kids, Walmart ice cream and Walmart Hot Pockets. 8 pounds and 5 pounds of Walmart chicken breast, skinless, boneless chicken breast. 12 and 12 on the Angus beef, and then ample amounts of even tucked in back here, and even behind that ice cream for the kids. Got beef liver. See if anybody's even eating that ice cream. It feels like it's getting a little lighter. Maybe not. Who knows? Who knows? So we will we'll change up the. No, we'll just leave it over here. There's not that many spaces, like you can't see it, but this tripod's like huge. So we're just gonna leave it as it is. We slowly ease into a walk. Takes a while to wake up. You want to cover as much distance as you can. Do you have 10 paces to walk? If not, choose a really safe time to go to the park. Whatever park you're at. Keep 911 on the handle. Right? Be aware of your surroundings. So a big issue for especially females, right? Where if you are going through dieting and you're really getting skinny and leaning up, people will perceive that as weakness. And you'll have to admit that it is weakness. And you gotta be prepared. Right? People who think they know jujitsu or kung fu or karate, you'd be surprised how that shit just doesn't work with raw aggression. So, walking indoors for a lot of people is better for even other reasons. But when your fight or flight response is peaked out, and your amygdala is firing, your limbic system is active, and you're not just sort of easing in like we're doing right here. I don't want to move too much. I don't want to get too cortisol inspired. That shift is slowly happening as I'm sipping my coffee, as my body is assimilating all those nutrients and supplements, which are nutrients, okay? And we just think about what we're going to do in the other room. I'm definitely thinking about, and I was going to be adding this in as back suspension training, back swings, which I've done a couple of times, and I was surprised how smooth it did go. And in my mind, what am I thinking? I'm thinking 3 sets. I'm not thinking 9 sets, 12 sets of the total workout. I'm thinking 3 sets. 3 sets, then begin to assess. Your body will kind of, like right now is the time where I reflect back on what I have been working the past couple of days prior. Yeah, we're going into 3 straight days of suspension training, may even be more. I think it's been 3. And we're getting to a place where we're averaging 5 or 6 sessions per week. And I'd like to turn that into 7. And then even more so, we're talking 7 days of training per week. And even more so, I'd like to begin to take up most of those training days with just all day type of suspension training. I'm surprised, frankly, that the diet that I'm on, right? So what I tout is beef liver at a very low amount. I did probably 1/16 of a pound of beef liver today. I did sardines last night with some omega-3, omega-rich mayonnaise, omega-3 rich mayonnaise that has EVOO in it as well. Tastes better. And then oftentimes I'll add in Tabasco and even olive oil into that mix. I've been eating cheese, not much, but I've been eating cheese before I go to bed, and it's really seems to have been satiating and assisting me. I got to sleep very late last night because I was overstimulated on too much caffeine, too much coffee. I'm reliant on it a little more, just getting used to the training, but we did get a good sleep. It was closer toward 11 when I finally got up and I went to sleep. Kind of sort of around 3. The good thing about doing Dramamine or I don't even remember what you call that stuff. Pink. Those things put you out. In the past, I wouldn't touch them because they would fuck you up the next day. But I'm in a place where sleep has become paramount. My sleep was disturbed for so long, and that's really what you have to look at. And people who have sleep problems, you're not training enough. You're not doing enough. I know you're stressed. And sometimes things level out. They work out in a way, such a way, that you lose a job. Something happens that just shifts the paradigm in your entire life. And you can either get depressed about it or you can start moving. And it's almost like the body, there's a lot more than just 9 layers of the human condition, the human body, the human soul, human existence. You could even say we have layers that extend out far beyond us, and that some of those layers are being machinated against us, machinated, however you want to pronounce it, by an order that just blindly follows and listens to a dictatorial, computational system. That's as far as we can go. When people try to sell you a bill of goods, ask yourself, how would they know? And then they come out with some bullshit about how they know. And it just doesn't add up. They're amalgamating, they're stealing, they're chameleons, they're stealing other people's ideas, amalgamating it and then selling it as if it's some, like, ooh, look at me. You know? Well, let's try to stay positive, right? So I notice my waist is pulling in. I'm harder. I'm more solid. That's what I'm going for. I'm going for that solidness, that tightness. Because when all else fails, you have to realize that people are going on these dietary protocols trying to lose a shit ton of weight. And each time they do that, they lose muscle mass. There has to be a point where you build. Very few people talk about that. Everyone's lost in it. Like, build your mass up. Build that mass up, man. Stand alone. Tap into the genetics that are superior to the, not just the plebeians and the proletariats, but to see that the proletariat and the plebeian is merely a byproduct, a product of a society and an overthrow that squabbles and deals in minute, I used to call it the Jewish Plato machine, right? But they're just the ones that own the factories. It's you and I who work in the factories. Even more so, all you have to do is, so I was giving a lot of rides to people who work for Amazon. You'd be amazed what's going on there. Like, I pick up white people, black people, and hear what they have to say. Indian people, Russians. They're like, oh yeah, it's totally segregated. They act like it's not, but you got all these Indian people just sticking together, and even that splits up into subgroups. So the life that people live outside, the language that they serve or follow, to get all the bullshit propaganda fed down their throats. The death scroll on YouTube. That further puts them into this subconscious click where they don't have any energy to do anymore. Like the entrainment and the psychological corral posture control mechanism, it doesn't take much. You just infer it and then exhaust the people and leave them no other choice. That's really what's happening here. Washington wasn't a hero, General George Washington. The family members of my family that were connected were no heroes. Any of those people were, in fact, selling out. Maybe they fought, maybe they didn't. But if they owned real estate, where's the real estate? If they owned gold and precious metals, you'd think that they would want their offspring to inherit that, but they really don't. They saw themselves as serving some sort of sovereign elite rulership. That is basically what's being conjectured with Palantir, Peter Thiel. We'll put Jesse Michaels as his little meat puppet. Right? He doesn't want to turn up dead. He doesn't want to talk about. But when you look at his circle, like if you could picture the people who are getting all this respect, that are associated with these people, and if you knew the truth about them and what list they're on, what they actually do, and how they congruently conform a geometric unity within their lives, the things they do, their daily lives, and then ultimately what they end up doing throughout any given day, and what promotes them, what motivates them. Oh, that's so heavy. I didn't know that got here. Okay. It's just been sitting there. That's fucking heavy. I was like, what is that? Did I order something that I didn't realize? Or is this order? We got some Diet Dr. Pepper. Also, I got these from my son when he comes over. Those things are good. Those things are good. And who knows what's going to happen, right? Who knows what's going to happen? But wow, this Dr. Thunder. So I tried this in a 2 liter. Alright, got 24 of these bad boys for like $8 or something. Tastes just like Diet Dr. Pepper. Let's break open a little segment here where we can just kind of begin to take those out. And let's see if they can fit in the fridge. I think they will. Let's take a look here. I'm hoping, damn it. How do they do that? Let's see. You're probably curious what the heck's going on over here, right? I might have got myself into jam. Pickled jam butter. Well, I think what we'll do is we'll take all those out. Stack them. Shit, I didn't want to do that. Yeah, that is like dented like shit. is why I'm just opening the box there. Unwedge that one. Not to wedge any other. So a lot of these products, like this refrigerator and these, they're like universally based on measurement, and they fit exactly the world we live in, the geometry, geopolitics. It's all the same damn thing. That's crazy. Just pull out this way. Take one of them out. Yeah, the box itself is like wedged in there. Yeah. So let's go throw this box away. Let's go throw this box away. So I'm still moving, like you can hear me up. Like if you were to look at my heart rate's up. This is all part of the workout. It's like then I'm back into my walk. So no matter what I've got going on, and I will be wearing the heart rate monitor very soon. Give a little show. Just returning back to this training center. And that's simple. I'm glad that I cracked that open before I got crazy on my coffee, because I'd rather sip on one of these Dr. Thunder. So I had dropped the device, the part that's actually on the phone over there with you right now, approximately, under the damn refrigerator. So I had to move the refrigerator. My body's choosing to sip on that coffee, and that's not a good sign. And again, the reason that I drink Diet Dr. Pepper, even right now, just getting a little bit of that, just like phenylalanine, boom, excitatory neurotransmitter, aromatic amino acid, boom. Right? I will be hitting that park. I can tell that I'm battling to not take a day off. Ooh, I left the beef liver out. Glad I noticed that right away. All movements add to the higher heart rate, more systemic. I've shown a lot of videos like this where I'm just walking back and forth. I'm not doing anything special. I'm sore. So what I noticed when I looked in the mirror right today, and I'll be doing before and afters very soon, probably within the next coming days, because things are just happening very rapidly. Working for it. Hypertrophy is definitely setting in, and that trimethylglycine is helping that out a lot. Trying to formulate and figure out how I'm going to put together a a training video compilation. You see a lot of people who are doing burpees. That doesn't interest me, and it's not that it doesn't interest me, it's that I need to work on my flexibility. And what I find is there's a balance there. What I always did in the past is I worked on my strength. When I'm thinking of strength, I'm talking about like global strength, where your strength, your balance, your agility, not even agility first, just your mobility, and then the tactical aspect of your coordination really stem on asymmetrical imbalances and imbalances or synergistic muscle dominances that occur between planes of motion. And we're always stuck in a sagittal mind state, which reminds me I really want to do some band work where I'm doing some frontal plane stuff, firing off the tensor fascia lata here, right, on the side, the dorsal area, the peroneals getting down into the lateral aspects of the calves, many other muscles that work with that, but those all lock in, right? The glute medius, right? So you kind of want to almost like turn your foot in and kick out. It depends on your shape, right? And then that gets into your quadratus lumborum, right? And then obviously your core is active when you're kicking side to side. So you're almost better beginning to do those types of exercise where you're doing an open chain movement and you're just dangling and hanging from the dip, you know? Obviously that pull-up bar, you can see how long my arms stretch out and how my spine just stretches out, right? And that I really have to bend my knees. So people will wonder, why don't you come all the way up on the pull-ups? And it's like, when I'm in the gym, I do. I have to bend my knees so much that it puts stress in my low back, and there's no way to go through that arc, that rocking motion. So the pull-ups here, you know, could I do something, put the pull-up bar on some sort of support? I mean, at that point, you know, like, what are you supposed to do? How would I do that, right? How would I do that? No, I don't think I could unless I really, I would just have to level up and get a higher pull-up bar, but then you think about, and an adjustable pull-up bar is a great idea, actually. But you'd really have to have like, almost like a quick clip scenario where you can just adjust them instantly. I would say a pneumatic type, or even a hydraulic type jack, right? Would be something to consider. And that goes for just like leaning something against the wall. I wanted to get into doing some sumo squats against the wall too and show those. I think I did do a video where I was showing those. I'm not sure if I actually put that up, if I made it. Could do it here. Could do it against this wall over here. Yeah, I'm really tight. That part's drawing me out though, saying, sort of calling to me. And in the back of my head, it's like, dude, this is what you do. You were always vying for and waiting for this time, knowing it was coming, assisting other people, wasting your time. Whether it's a waste of time is really based on them, you know? When you take your successful time out of your life and you know the direction you're going in, you go right back to it, and it instantly equals success once you're in alignment. But to get into alignment, you know what I'm talking about. That's the tough part. Then the energy just creates this channel, this throughway, and that's why they want to do all this evil shit to you. Make you forget yourself. Yeah, so I think a heart rate monitor is one of the best things that you can buy. And to bypass that, you're really not looking into the window of the intrinsic workings of your biomechanical processes. Like as a main header is your cardiovascular system, your MET levels, oxygen diffusion, respiration. Heart rate monitors are one of the best things that you can possibly use. What I found back in the day is going really intensely, doing sets that when I was just moderately applying myself, say I'm just like an incline bench, which I would tackle really intensely, right? Great angle, working some really important muscles, and I'll be showing that on the suspension trainer when I'm doing inverted shoulder presses with body weight, right? We got 6 sets of 6 reps last time. And so the thing that I'm asking myself while I just go into this walk, and I did my walk outside, you saw it, went to the park. I'll probably bring, where's it at? Probably bring this thing, just this, handheld thing next time. Sipping on a little Diet Dr. Thunder, right? A little Diet Dr. Thunder here. Getting that phenylalanine in. We're almost into an entire week with the betaine at those high doses, and I'm feeling fuller. Even though I don't have any carbohydrates in my system, I'm feeling fuller. My muscles are feeling fuller. And when I go back and review the videos where I did all this walking, did all this training, so I'm not trying to walk myself into nothing like I did before. Like right now, I'm really using this as a systemic sort of warm up. And then like last night, I went back into a walk, but my body is really going, look, we need to get treaties going because we need to build up some muscle tissue here. Sleep is longer, it's more deep, it's more impactful. I need to take in like some acetaminophen and some like, what is that stuff? The pink little Dramamine type stuff. Yeah. 25 milligram Dramamines. I mean, those things are really powerful, but they take a while to kick in. But I'm getting restful sleep for the first time in many, many years. And I'm curious to see what the recovery is going to be like. I'm going to be 56, I'm pushing 60. I just sort of throw this up as it's a proofless measure. This is just one of the things I do on this channel. I'm going to be going in and doing more deep dives on the television. Showing and playing some interesting things that I'm interested in. So chat, I really like the Operation GCD Focus, JJ Vance. I think he needs to come off of feeling like he's speaking in a sort of unipolar place of temerity, right? And really go, look, I'm showing you all what my genealogy is. And the reason I'm talking about it is because just diving deep, hearing family stories, going in and studying this and looking at the validation and going, oh wow, Gramps didn't even know that the genealogy forked off and split over into this direction. That's crazy, right? So the same thing's been happening with me, with Marsteller, and what I found is that I could actually apply for the Society of the Cincinnati, which is, I mean, I would have to take a Y chromosome proof test, like 2 of them probably. So this seems boring to you, but it's 10 steps one way, 10 steps the other way, and I have done this walk for 1,700 miles. Yeah, 1,700 miles. I have used an iPhone, which I hence paid off and traded in and got screwed over for. That's why we got to maximize the use out of these things. Now we're using a Samsung Ultra S24 Ultra. It's the same damn thing. In fact, maybe I like iPhone more, but I haven't really used it for all the things that I should or could. Most people should just buy the base because they're never going to use their phone for anything more. But for that time when you think, okay, I want to do thumbnails or I want to do, right? That's when having the higher tier phone might really come in handy. But they're holding back the technology. And so when you get into this, you have to ask the questions as far as the genealogy goes. I haven't asked, is my bloodline, the Marsteller line, related to the Vances? And there's no connection there whatsoever. Because you have people who, sounds like him, he came through the Virginia territories and the Appalachian Mountains and so forth. Probably going down south toward even Florida, eventually spreading out that way. My family, the 4 Marstellers, they came in through Pennsylvania. They spread out through Ohio, Iowa, and other places. And then my specific family migrated to California, and we're like the only ones that actually came this westerly. You don't see the name often. And I think it was because of my grandfather's heart condition where he ended up passing away at like 54, really young. And I guess he was born with a congenital heart condition. My other grandfather on my maternal side passed away of a heart attack. My uncle on my mother's side passed away of a heart attack. That's where I got this TRX from, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to and I wouldn't have bought it. I bought so many TRX and sold them all. And to me, it's kind of like, okay, Unc, he's saying, this is yours. This isn't to sell. This is yours to use. Use it. So, I mean, I've sold my equipment. I've sold everything at times. Not my ass. I came pretty damn close a couple times, I ain't gonna lie. It's a terrible world, and I feel for people. Right? And that's why I'm doing what I do. Like, this isn't a workout, this is extra. This is what I do. The second you wake up, you should start walking. No matter where you are. If you're indoors and you're doing things inside, start walking. You know? I don't cherish going outside. I don't cherish going over to the park. It's a really ugly area as far as it's kind of like when you do go outside here, it's kind of like walking through a barrio. It's that way. It's California. In some respects, even Salinas looks better. Some areas are really beautiful. right? But then what? Gentrification, right? And no, I don't like Trump. I think he's a piece of shit. I think he's a fat bozo. And his origin of where he comes from, you ever look that up? If you ever look that up, or if you ever gone in and done a deep dive on Melania, I suggest you do. She's a very dark person. Her name even implies such things. I did a video on that. And it ain't pretty. She ain't pretty. She's an evil, dark person, and so is Trump. They're both very machinating, terrible human beings. But I mean, you hear it. But everybody who has political affiliations is afraid of saying the real truth. But more's coming out about those fake ass assassination attempts at great. I mean, put it together. Put together how lame that is. But it wasn't a show for us. It was to be able to escalate the Secret Service, probably employ another program by executive order that makes the CIA and the FBI just look like they're basically front. It's like Disneyland, you know, you have your, or probably not Disneyland, but some other, maybe Disneyland, but it's kind of like the Hollywood sets, right? You just have this veneer on the outside. That's all Kash Patel is. He's not running any. You really think an idiot like that could run any complex organization? He doesn't even look like he could run for sheriff, local sheriff. There's a lot to that. Think about sheriff. It's just a different pronunciation of Sharif. Think about it. You have the Freemasons and the Shriners, and they are always heavy laden with Eastern Indian themes. It's always been planned this way, is to take the belief systems from the East and conflict them and conflate it. The belief systems, the fundamentalist Christians who don't believe in a true Christianity. Hence fundamentalists, they believe in the dogma. And then you have all these Islamic fanatics who believe in the pure dogma with that. Right? And they act like they're digging in, but they're digging into the fallacy. They're digging in. They're not talking about the idiosyncrasies and the obvious contradictions, right? Yeah, if you need to take on someone else's religion, then there's something fundamentally wrong with how you're putting your principles together. Because you're not going to find the principles concurrent. You're going to see them infused, fabricated in with anti-principles. And what you should do is take the principles from the belief system and say, I could come up with something better. So we're already 49 minutes in. That's good. We're going to get about an hour and 20 because we did do like a stop and go. So we're going to go for another 40 here. We're shooting for a few miles. This pacing is really good. Again, this is superfluous. This is just added on. This is something I'm doing that I'll phase in and out as I get more, as my build gets more solid, as I get more muscular. My metabolism's kicking up just from the active conditioned muscle. And for most of the time, this is going to take you 6 months. So you saw what I put in last time. I put that up. I put in a lot. And mainly, I can tell you what I did to get that physique. And that was a lot of bar dips, a lot of pull-ups, a lot of leg raises, Those are the main. Those are the main. I didn't work a lot of shoulders. I did like some side laterals and some other shoulder and some. I did do a fair amount of super band overhead presses, and I may be doing that today because I did inverted shoulder presses the other day. But I might just go back into that because I love TRX. What I do with the TRX and how I go in and do that every day is I realize that unlike, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say unlike traditional weightlifting exercises, because you can always choose the dumbbells. And the dumbbells are what you want to fly with 60% of the time. You know, you're going to get more out of a dumbbell, but I have done, I've successfully done 3 exercises, built my body up to 210 pounds of solid muscle. I would eat the same thing. I can't tell you what I would eat, but because I don't really remember. I got into a consistent formula of what I was doing though. I pretty much would eat scraps and be treated as a dog by my ex-wife, by my family, regarded as a dog, cheated on, lied to. And people, when they, when they're defensive and they hear that, they all want to blame and they want to point fingers and say, you're a monster. But I'm the one that was piecing everything together. I know that other men go through this. And the emasculation is epic. Men don't just choose to cuckify themselves. They're cucked by their mothers, by society, by everything. You have to have that internal light. You have to rise above the man. You can't just be a man. You have to, and when you jump to God, you have to understand what that lowercase g really means, And it's not lowercase in reference to people, society, it's uppercase. That you are their God. But under God, you're lowercase, right? You're acting as God through God. And it's a violent world. When you start to put things together like communism and despotic rulership, and when you really put it together, the egalitarian approach and the social aspect and the social contracts, when people walk away, you can have the most brilliant person that begins to formulate and create excuses for prejudices. Right? But political science isn't something that can be erased. Men are attracted to it, and even more so, there's something that is attracted to men. And when you break it down, these are orders that believe the same thing, and it doesn't matter if they don't talk to each other. It's kind of like they're creating this high-pitched frequency. And they're like, I'm a witch. I'm being treated like shit. And then they're collapsed on the bathroom floor, throwing a concrete, infantile tantrum, crying to themselves, and a voice comes. And it says, you can have it all. You're too good for this, bozo. With their fat, out-of-shape bodies, and they're machinating. I like to use machinating in the term of, because you can pronounce it completely different in the terms of low-level machinations, right? Low-level machinations. Coming at angles. The angels are coming at angles. Whew. Well, this is feeling good. So we're getting a nice systemic blood flow. It's funny, from a sensory sense, lack of a better, I can feel the ocean over there. I can feel the cool air as if I'm walking outside, And wherever I've lived, I've walked outside. I've walked mile after mile after mile, track after track, gone through all the dark, weird neighborhoods. I'm not turned off. I'm aware. And I could always justify indoor walking. You do this at a gym and you're considered weird. Right? Until you get around old people, and the old people are all competitive. They'll blow their hips out and fall and starve themselves and eat old tuna sandwiches. Right? It's just a really bad vibe that creates a terrible state of mind. I suggest that you pull back, simplify, and I've if you look back years of these, which I put up on this channel. This is a turkey area channel. At some point, I'll probably be doing live streams. I just wanted and high quality videos on esoteric principles of life, but I might not work out. This is the bread and butter. This is what I do. Right? This is what I do. I worked as a top level personal trainer for many years. I've not worked in that capacity for many years, but I studied, and I would get certifications when I wasn't working in that field, when I was pulled away, right? Taken it to a different area where I couldn't just focus on work. Like I was saving people, and they scoff at that, and they're still alive, and they think, no big deal. I just got here my older son thinks he got here by blind chance. Boy, do some people have to learn the hard way. The past comes up and reels these hoes into you know what, into A's. It will come up on you. You'll have to face what you've worshipped all along. So they're going off to Hawaii. And I would love to just suddenly get 1,000 subscribers on any channel, start to get all kinds of views, and be able to beat them to Hawaii. I've been left out of everything, thrown false child support, thrown on the street from a 6-figure earner. So once you see the truth, it will scorn you. It will scorn you for following it. It'll go into you, and it's a very contemptuous, evil, feminine energy. That whole thing with Chris Bledsoe, Jake Barber, and all that bullshit, they're just disinformation agents. They're liars. They're terrible human beings, propagandizing a complete and total lie. Bad human beings, showing their face, and like Jake Barber, you ever seen that guy with his eyeballs? Looks like a raccoon on crack, man. More like meth. And that's where all that stuff comes from, but like it's amazing how Hitler begins to look less evil next to Trump and the agenda of Palantir, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, the whole PayPal mafia, how it all leads back, how they're aware of this, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, how it's all, Mark Zuckerberg, how it's all feeding into a 1001 Club, into an Operation Gladio system of complete and total rule. And they're not even intelligent people. Like, I don't have to follow your stupid rules. I don't have to go to your schools. I don't have to live in your bullshit. And even more so, you have to prove that you have principles and stop messing with people inside their bodies, pushing frequencies, changing and altering reality. And this is what they're doing. Wouldn't that be great if it sounded crazy? Maybe not. But at this point, if you want to go under the Underclass Podcast, Operation GCD, the Gray Pill Podcast, Gray Pill, I think it is. Many people are talking about it, and it's just like, how long is this shit gonna go on, right? Where are we at? We're at an hour exactly, so we'll go 20 more minutes. Time goes by quick. So we'll probably kind of chill back and just breathe while we're walking. And you want to get to a place where you're just taking in big breaths. So I'm going to do, for sure I'm going to do hip swings. And then we'll see. I want to hit some rows for my back. So we're going to do some hip swings. So that's lower back, glutes. Supinated position, swinging through. Great. Like the pull-up apparatus couldn't have worked out better. Couldn't have worked out better. Perfect dimensions. It's one of those things that says, yeah, you're going the right way. It's going to be tough, but you've done this before. Just do it. Keep your nose to the grindstone, as they say. I'm not putting my nose to a grindstone. Like, you put your nose to a grindstone and you don't have a nose anymore. Fuck that. I'm not going to lose anymore. Taking back what was stolen from me. They like to say appropriated. Well, you signed the contract, bullshit. You're my enemy. You know, it's time to behead people, right? Like the biblical antiquity. You're going to see that. You're going to see a lot of beheading take place. That's what this whole clash is that they've created. Talk about the Masons and the Shriners and the stuff Albert Pike was mystically casting out. That's what he was talking about. Yeah, I can't believe the nice form I'm getting. So I'm emphasizing, I do wish that I had some collagen. I was about to order some. Unfortunately, like where I'm at is I am surviving off EBT. Everything that you saw in the freezer, everything that you saw in the refrigerator, everything that you see me with is predominantly purchased through EBT, except for supplements. And that supplement that I was taking last year when I was shooting out of the Tesla, doing most of the filming out of the Tesla with the Insta360, which was good, but it wasn't that impressive, you know. I liked it. I'd like to get another one, but I'd like to see some better, more highlighted performance. But I hear they're different, various products. Like I think it's the Ace, Insta360 Ace. I think that one that's like kind of indestructible. It's a little more expensive. Might be a good one. I chose the Go 3 because it was you could remove an aspect of it and put the pod right on your chest. Right? But I always realized in purchasing that and then selling it soon after and only taking like a $50 hit or something like that. It wasn't bad. I think a $50 hit plus like shipping or whatever. Nice Hispanic guy gave me, I think it was like 200 and something bucks. And I knew that if I sold it later, I used it for a year. I used it a lot. He got a great deal on it. And, you know, he was a nice guy. think he was trying to shoot some UFOs and shit like that, he was saying. I have a very interesting history because I carry the Y chromosome as a male information through the bloodline of Marsteller that's related back to the von Marsteller Crusader lineage of 1096. Look it up, it's crazy. Yeah, that's my family history. And I'm sure that there's other archived family history that really links and ties that in. I couldn't get any more on that. ChatGPT was sending out some emails to Umstad. I didn't receive anything back. So we're still moving. It isn't like it's not like this critical thing where you stopped walking and you stopped. Right? This is why a heart rate monitor is so crucial. Right? Is that you're moving. You're just moving. Then you get into a thing where you're like moving and moving and moving. Months go by. Once you get 5 or 6 weeks of really intense suspension training in, and you're kind of sort of doing similar things every single day. Like I think I'm going to get another 3 sets of squats. I'm doing a lot of squats. So I'm focusing on my powerhouse, focusing on my legs, my lower body. But I'm not overly focusing on anything. The whole thing about suspension training is it equals out. It balances out the physique. And it more and more it begins to involve your entire your physiological processes just to go through exercising. And then you're more prone to lifting a leg and going into a stabilization exercise, doing unilateral movements, even contralateral movements. And at that point, kettlebells really begin to make sense, right? They really kick in very well with suspension training. But I would put suspension training above that. I would put suspension training at the root of a training protocol. I would say it's more important. It's fun to go to the gym at that point, right? It's fun to just do maximal stuff. Like it becomes easy. Like you get on the bench press and you realize, I'm getting more out of this and I know exactly what weight I'm supposed to be at and I'm not being overly greedy. And I'm finding myself kind of drifting back and forth, getting my core in, hitting different angles. Like you're just gonna approach compound exercises, isolation exercises where you're going, wow, I can get a really good range of motion with this side lateral, you know? So you might drop back to a lighter weight. You might play around with a heavier weight and go, wow, you know, that really lights up and ignites certain fascicles. But you get that overall stabilization from the suspension training, and it just matches and marries very well with max, not just max, but like max training principles in the gym, which is at that tier. It can't be confused with power, right? But there is more power involved. I always kind of did a similar amalgamation when I would go on traditional exercises for resistance training, right? Say like an incline bench press, barbell bench press. I would focus in almost like I'm doing an Olympic lift where I'm doing this explosive motion, right? Where I'm just lighting up more muscle fascicles. There's that old guy. Can't remember his name. I think I'm subscribed to him. His stuff comes up on one of my channels quite often, but he's an old guy that benched like 475 pounds. I'm sure he's like benched over 500 pounds at some point or thereabouts. He's just an old, really like an old man that just kept going back to the well and doing his training. He only weighs like 165 pounds or something like that now, but I don't think he's benching that much. He's older. He got to this point where, like, that's when he was around 60, a little after 60, but I think he's a little older now. And he just kind of shows his training from his garage. And anyone can do it. And the older you get, the more explosive, the more compound lifts become the thing to do. Is you get down the form. You understand how to activate your core. You understand how to transfer the energy from your heels right on up, you know, through the motion. And then you also understand the agonist antagonistic aspects that I've gone over before on one of my channels, where, you know, if you're wanting to get really stable and make 225 pounds, which is like the first sort of milestone, obviously 135, you know, getting those wagon wheels out. Great accomplishment, you know, especially for a female. Then you get up to 225, then you get up to 315. And then I don't think I've ever actually done this, but I could have at one time. You get up to benching 405. I definitely could have done this several times. I would work out for a couple months, not really get much over 180 pounds. 182 pounds usually is like that cutoff spot for me where I could press 325, 335. But when you prioritize bench press, it depends on your training, but it can equal some really negative things. But you want to balance that out. So in other words, you're going for a really competent number of reps with 185 pounds. We'll work on that with your bent over row. Get to the point where you're articulating 185 pounds with ease, going through your bent over row with an equal focus on form, right? And it works your whole back. Bent over rows are great. They really do replace the deadlift entirely, in my opinion. And they show you if you have enough flexibility in your hamstrings, your lower back can even handle supporting it. Bent over rows are amazing. Bent over barbell rows. You don't see enough people doing them, where they just walk up and they start doing a barbell row, you know? But like 75 to 120 pounds, you know, those fixed barbells, working that in congruence with all these other exercises, great finishing exercise. You know, pull downs, pull ups. That's if you're in the gym. So what is it right now? It's one. So we've been going for an hour and 13. We're gonna do, this time I'm not gonna, so yesterday my video was cut short because I couldn't fit the tripod through the door, but I was being really sloppy. I was huffing and puffing and being really sloppy, so and I caused some problems. We don't want to do that again. And so I'm going to set up in the other room. I'm going to do hip swings, basic squats like I was doing a couple days ago at the park, back rows, so lower back glutes with the hip extensions, back extensions, rows, and squats. I might do a circuit. And if I passed through and did those 4 times, I got my 12 out of the way. 12's the base, you know. And then you come back after you do your 12 sets and you ask, could I do more? And sometimes I'll throw in, like the other day, I threw in a little bit of arms. Right? You start to think more systemically about how you're going to get blood flow going through your entire, globally through your periphery, right? And have I hit, this is what I would think in the past, have I hit every muscle group again? From kind of a different angle, sort of tricking your body, right? To push it. If you don't, like, you have to be doing some pretty great things to stand out. And you have to have a history, you know. And so when people try to jump into territory, and a lot of times people just cheat. You know, they use, I don't know, pet use. I've talked about it. I would talk about it more. In fact, I enjoy talking about it. I enjoy looking at it, but almost like talking about toys and components, right? To me, that entire world could be considered obsolete just with the advent of technology, the Internet of Bodies, the insulin growth factors, mechanofactors, and nanoids working together. It would just make, virtually, it would make the whole steroidogenesis, growth hormone, product line and conjecture obsolete instantly. You'd be able to do this, trigger this through where computer scientists would understand this more. They would see the process, the endocrine system, open source data, being able to reference doctors, archives, information. Yeah, I mean, it's, if you get an archive going, and that's really what this is, you know, is it's archival information. We're all archiving. I don't think people really realize that. So when you're just sending out bullshit reiterations, you're completely being self-centered. Like, what are you really focusing on? What do you really offer, right? So my weight, like, is kind of going up as I'm getting leaner. Like, I'm on carnivore. I'm getting more solid. I'm getting stronger. I'm doing trimethylglycine. My weight is actually going up as my body fat's going down. I'm focusing on my powerhouse, my lower body. I'm becoming much more anaerobic. And so I'm initially kind of forcing myself through the aerobics and the aerobic aspect at a low level. Like, this is the best thing you can do. I'm telling you, I've told people this forever. Now, if you really want to know what the dietary trick is to losing weight, getting in better shape, fiber, water, walk. I used to tell my clients that for years. And then you throw in orthomolecular nutritional science. That's all you ever need to do. Take in the fiber. You drink, you know, your portion of an upper limit of water. That meaning everybody's a little different. But the truth is that a highly trained individual is going to be guzzling up water. It's just a fact. For me now, Diet Dr. Thunder, it's going to help me. You know, it's going to help me considerably. Got 24 of those bad boys. I would consider that an ergogenic aid. You have your phenylalanine. And then I'm also doing the citrulline and the arginine with the nitric oxide booster, right? And then I'm doing trimethylglycine. So I'm on a really good amino acid therapy, and that is orthomolecular science. Like what would you add in there? I would add in branched chain amino acids. I'd add in vitamin Bs, but I'm getting that from a natural source through my beef liver. I'm getting that through eggs. I really have to get back up on the eggs. I was surprised that my eggs, the last number of eggs that I had didn't go bad. But it's been a few days where I just pulled off the eggs, you know? So I think some really good empirical proof physically is coming forth. The chest is really solid, core is solid. The subcutaneous fat is protruding, but what I notice is it's hard to tell for people because they don't see how soft they are when they go into exercise programs or change around their dietary supplementation. I should say and what you really have to realize is that fat, you'll look fat. You'll look like, my God, I'm getting fatter, right? The muscle underneath, are you getting stronger? Are you gaining weight? Are you feeling more solid? Right? Is your diet cued in? Like, I haven't had a carbohydrate in 26 days. So, and I'm feeling pretty damn good on that. I'm not overeating, but my calories did bump up about 500 calories yesterday, 300 to 500 calories. You know, I was eating a little more mayo, I was eating a little more cheese, a little more olive oil. And what I'm ultimately, I plan this out, what I'm going to end up having left in the coming weeks, the next 2 weeks, what I'll end up having left is chicken. I'll have eggs and I'll have chicken. That's what I'll end up having left. So I kind of want to focus on getting more chicken in right now, actually, so that I'm not just left with one food source. I need to mix up the variety a little bit. So I'm trying to keep track of the foods that I have and how I'm sort of shifting, you know. I should have got more oil as well. Should have got more olive oil. So we are at 100, minute and 21. We've probably gone about 3 miles. Again, I was keeping 2 phones, keeping track, filming on this one. Then I have to recharge this, and then all the little electronics, you have to recharge that. And it gets really cumbersome, you know. So I really like watching down home people like Eek Acres. But does he really give information? Like, or is he just, so like when you break it down, you go, well, the only reason I really subscribe to you is because you have cancer. I feel terrible about that. You have kidney cancer and you had a kidney removed. Like, you're really in dire straits, man. And so all these, you'll see that people will, out of the goodness of their hearts, will rally toward these channels. And then you begin to see, I'm not saying that he's lying. I mean, I do not believe that he's a liar at all. In fact, he really tries to be forthright. And that's why people like to watch him and they stay subscribed to him. And he gets like 1,000 subscribers every day or two, right? And he's making like $7 grand a month now. That's probably going to go up to 8 and 9, 10, 11, right? As he gets more subscribers, because people are actually viewing his content. They enjoy listening to him. They enjoy watching him. They enjoy listening to him. He's a principle-oriented person, really, you know. And so you get these down-home people, and you want them to do good, you know. You want them to be able to make improvements on the Eek Acres, and you know, maybe even buy the adjacent property next door, and figure out how he's gonna put money into his medical expenses and stay alive, right? You want that to happen, right? And things that he's critical about, you don't mind, because you can see the critical aspect of and the division between people, and it's very true. And he doesn't get too negative on that, right? So I like channels like that. And then there's other channels where you'll get in there and people will actually pass away. They'll actually die. You know, so their videos live on, and hopefully they've got some trust set up with, you know, YouTube, to where the channel content is owned by such individual, that there's not any sort of discrepancy. I can see that being an issue. And I'm sure YouTube is pulling some shit like that, where, you know, they eventually find out that someone's deceased. But probably, honestly, just opening up a dual checking or savings account that you get paid from. So I haven't eaten anything today, and I'm not even hungry. I've had beef liver, so what I'm probably going to do is start in on this bacon. I don't know why I feel like bacon goes bad. Right? Does it go bad? Of course it doesn't, but the fat does go rancid, but does it go that rancid? So we're gonna throw, looks like we've got 5 pieces of bacon going on here. I've been cooking everything at a much lower heat. Maybe there's 6. And again, I got 3 more packages of bacon. We're probably just gonna go bacon and beef today. And then I'm gonna start working on the fattier chicken first. And then as the month goes by, that's why I have, what do I have, 15 or, how much do I have, 5 and, I think I have 15 pounds of, yeah, we got 6 slices. Yeah, I have 8 and 5, so I have 13 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken breast. Taking this off, putting it here. Bodybuilders were notorious in being wrong. Except they were bulking up and getting too big, making their waist wider and thinking bigger is better, you know. And they lost the basic aesthetics of what made them look like individuals. And there's been a lot of comments on this over time in dealing with, my subconscious got out another Diet Dr. Pepper, man. Good junkie. Now I like soda, and I like diet sodas, and they're not bad for you. And when you put the aspartame and the phenylalanine together in a meal, it just washes out. There's been a lot of negative things even with engineered foods, and that's eventually, I mean, we really are all eating engineered foods already. Crackling. Crackling, crackling. Yeah, we'll cook that, and I'm gonna head back into my walk while I'm cooking that bacon. This is basically how it goes, man. This is like going back into our walk. I'm gonna cook the bacon up. And, I mean, you know, this is proof positive that that's how I got lean, wasn't? I mean, I was eating a lot of fat. And the reason that some people get lean, you know, like a leaner carnivore or a ketogenic diet, and some don't, is the difference between people who exercise and those who don't, and the type of exercise you do and the intensity. You know, once you go up to this really intense place, and then specifically pushing the production of those ketone bodies into other higher states, where, but what I try to do is I just try to keep moving. Like you'll see what I'm doing. It's, let's see. You can't be cooking bacon without getting it on film, right? Flip the nose. It's smelling good, yeah. Smelling good. So, you can't expect much if you're not willing to do much. If you want to be great, it's going to take everything you have. You want to be considered great, premier. So many people, they get these worthless degrees that they feel instantiate a moral superiority over other people, when all it is just a piece of paper, it's just a degree. And it's not even a coveted degree. Like if you really think about it, someone from like the only thing that hasn't changed, and today I'm going to hang on to that bacon grease to make my eggs. I've got some eggs to eat. I find bacon to be one of the best overall carnivore foods, but it's not cheap. It's expensive. It's costly. But I find bacon to be one of the best metabolically stimulating foods once you're, so I'm a little shy of a month in to keto, full on carnivore. No carbs. And I point out what I do. And I think there may be a time for the sugar diet type application. But I would point more toward healthy. I've never done it. I don't know if I ever will do it. If one of my channels starts doing really good and I get into the money and I can support the claims that are made about the sugar type diet, right? I think that I would do a sugar diet if I ever started to do PEDs again. It's been many years. I think if I ever started to incorporate any sort of PEDs, a sugar diet would be something that I would do. I mean, it makes perfect sense. You essentially are going to be producing that, like the PEDs themselves, the claims that are made about this FGF21, the PEDs themselves are acting largely in that fashion. So, let's turn that back on. Got it on low level. We're going to keep the bacon fat for later. I might even just fry up some eggs right away. The thing about bacon is you don't want to overcook one side versus the other. In my opinion, you got to flip them a couple of times to really figure out what you're doing. I'll be showing you again so you can get that look smell test. Can't be cooking bacon in front of people and not show them, you know. Someday, what used to be like a joke was smell-o-vision, right? There's even like boots on this, smell-o-vision. And you're going to be able to do that. It will know the smells of things, and it will be able to put out a very close simulation of those smells, to the point where the accuracy could probably be
They could look at the climate, the zone, where you're coming from, the type of bacon you're cooking. And, okay, we're turning that off. Yeah, that's getting there really quick. That's why we go for the low level. We got water on this plate, so we're gonna do some bite back. So I have to remind myself, dude, just because you have 6 pieces of bacon doesn't mean you have to eat them all. Then the rebuttal self is, why not? You're you, it's your bacon. It's only gonna make you get more shredded, eat it. I could even cook some beef in there and say that's my day, you know, that's my daily food right there. I think I will. I will because I can. And so we're gonna dig into the to the other patties here. See, I think there's 2 rows of patties. Pulling out one. These are the Angus beef patties. Market side Angus beef. High quality patties. Turn that back on really low. We got that grease going. Right. We're gonna pull out these nice patties. Oh yeah. That's a nice Angus beef patty. They don't completely cook down into nothing. We're going to, oh shoot, that's not good. There's a little one of those capers in there. I'm gonna cook up 2 of these in that bacon grease, and I'm even gonna fry up some eggs for the entire day. My appetite's dropped off considerably. Dropped off. Another piece of bacon. This is what we do. This is how we do it. You have to cut back one form or the other, a macronutrient. Something I don't see happening is when people sub channels, they're not unsubbing. Not at a greater rate as it should be occurring. But specifically with people like Durian Ryder, who he's not telling you anything. What promoted his sugar diet, and why he's bald, and why he's got such a bad attitude is because the guy has been doing testosterone the entire time. He's done tren. He runs long cycles because he even admits it. They're cheap in Australia. I'm not sure how it works, but I don't think they're scheduled class. Oh yeah. So we're cooking these in bacon grease. This is how I got shredded. This is how it happened. Like, not a lot of people realize that when I was shredding up last year, my body, at least my body, looks like a 40-year-old guy. Maybe I can turn that around in other areas, maybe I can't. But that's not, I mean, that's always the sub goal, right? Third piece of bacon. Form follows function, function into form. You see how that's doing on that side. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that perfect looking hamburger. Those are perfect hamburgers, no? That's what bacon grease does. So I'm going to add some Bragg's Aminos on there. I think I'm even going to add a little bit of mustard on there too. We did a deep dive on the mustard. We'll do a deep dive, and all you have to do is go on Rogue Beast Warrior rbw.blogspot.com. It's all amino acids, folks. All amino acids. And we are kicking in the protein all through the day. I'm not afraid of gluconeogenesis here when I'm building up. Then I highly suggest you get away from constantly trying to lose. And get to the place where you're, especially the females out there, that it's okay to build. Right? It's okay to be strong. It's okay to build. We're going to get a little bit of salt in there too, right? Not much. See how little? And we're going to go a little Tabasco on that. We're going to go Tabasco. Doesn't that sound like cray cray? We're going Tabasco on you, mofo. Let me do a little Tabasco on there too. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. And then I am going to break a little cardinal rule there, but these aren't rules. I don't have to call anything carnivore or keto or this or that. I don't have to go by that construct. Right? Yeah, that side will flip sides again and get that locking that flavor, okay? Locking in that flavor. I might have this a little low on the heat, but alright, that you can hear the bacon grease dripping away. Alright, let's try another. So we're probably not going to eat that. Yeah. Oh, that's Tabasco stuff. Bacon? That's something else. Yeah. Tabasco sauce with bacon, folks. Yeah. I love that Tabasco so much, I did not want to waste it. Lights you up. And then we got that Diet Thunder, Dr. Thunder. Great price, tastes just like Dr. Pepper. Not quite as good, doesn't have that signature flavor, but still very close. Frankly, it's probably just not as sweet. Slightly less aspartame. With that, oh yeah, we got this. Look at that. Mustard, Tabasco, salt, fried camino. So typically, I'm walking while I do this. Yeah, I stuff around and once you're training, you would not believe how highly indulgent it feels when you're going, am I supposed to be eating? So we're almost a month in on carnivore. And my time goes by quickly. You'd be surprised how you really don't crave carbohydrates, it's just calories. It's fuel. ATP production. I think that side's plenty to it. We're on this side for right now. And I'm really gonna get out of that. Because I like a nice well done. I started to like well done and I found out what they were doing and not doing with food quality. I'm gonna let that cook. And then it's been a minute. I'm starting to think now it's starting to go from back to the first like might be a good time to start thinking about training. So we already talked about it, we thought about it. You have 3 sets of squats, 3 or 4 sets of squats. You want 3 to 4 sets of back rows. We're doing 3 or 4 sets of lower back suspension training. You might just keep it simple like that. Try to keep it systemic, even when we're eating, and that's the thing. Um, eating these fatty protein meals is that I don't feel bogged down by processed carbohydrates. I don't feel that. I don't feel that oatmeal bogging. I don't feel that potato bogging. A lot of good research has come out about that's a start. It's really impossible to base these studies on any empirical information where you're not looking at a person's lifestyle and diet. And you could argue against that and say, well, no, it's based on your average person, sedentary people, but it's like interactions like eating along with that are entirely critical. Or it's the enzymes that are there and available. Right, so there's a lot of assumptions going on there. And really no people are metabolizing like not doing the same thing. That's the problem with this quasi-egalitarian democratic societies that people intentionally separate themselves from a principle-based protocol. You know, this works, so do this. There's always this rebellion. People are pushed and pressed and through rebellion. They're fueled off rebellion. They're fueled to be antithetical to any authority figure. Even if that authority figure is taking on the brunt of the weight. And once they've killed their hero, and their hero exists no more, then they pretend that they were there with the hero instead of railing against him. That's really what the giants represent, and the whole Tartarian empire type of concept, right? We'll put that one this time. Oh, yeah. So we definitely overtricked that bit. No doubt. And I can return back to just being me. Back to just being me, man. Bacon grease, bacon fat, really well cooked grease. Fried, actually, yeah. I mean, those are fried. Fried. We'll let them sit in that. We'll let them stew in that. Let them soak up some of that. I'm still walking. Sipping watered down coffee with some minerals in there. Dr. Thunder diet. Yeah, I had, 5 or 6 pieces of bacon. I think I might have one of these patties before I even kick into a workout. You see how easy going this is, though? We're not running, we're not rushing. I will be doing heavy jump rope, heavyweight jump rope. I've got one of those. And I'm kind of not wanting to overly structuralize what I'm doing. I did that for years. I'm not that kind of person anymore. I realized that's not what fitness is. Fitness is just thinking about your entire body, globally, physiology, knowing and listening to your body about what it might need, what works, what doesn't work, right? When to throw this in, when to throw that in. And you know after the first rep if you're, usually before that, but you know whether or not you're just so sore. And so the off chance, when you've been training really hardcore for like 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and your body wants to take a break, but you don't have to, you're just on this nice roll and you're going, workouts are good, feeling great, I'm profitable, you know that feeling? So we're just getting into that, but we're just about 2 weeks into that. If you were to maybe even a week before, I would say we got another month before we hit that spot. Right? That's why we got to stay floating, stay alive. But we got about another month before we hit that spot, and that is where you end up taking a day off for some reason. Right? You end up taking a day off, and you maybe take 2 days off, and you're going, wow. Maybe I'll take 3 to 5 days off, and it doesn't hurt you. You come back bigger, stronger, more muscle, more fueled up, more anaerobically inclined, but then you get into the anaerobic left ventricle hypertrophy aspect of it, and the anaerobics are driving you, right? You're craving meat, you're eating more, you're also going through times where you don't eat much at all. And what ultimately happens is you go through this sort of morphic change where you're morphologically getting more solid, getting more dense, compacting, right? And then when you're no longer expending all those calories, you get a surplus of calories and your body is just rapidly, because you have those capillary bed density established, right? So I didn't lose that. I trained intensely for long enough to where I established that, and that's why the trimethylglycine, the nutrition, it's all just coming back. And this is when people will look at somebody and go, oh, you're on the juice, or what are you taking, or you're doing something. And honestly, you can do this without any supplements at all, but there's always something that you could tap into. But there is a huge placebo effect to this. Huge placebo effect. Because your body will begin to mechanize and create, I'm not sure what this came from. I think it came from under that. Like trimethylglycine. When you didn't have the supplement to take, you would start to eat foods that had a higher portion of this, even though you're not taking anywhere near what you would. But you're going to find that, you know, when you get away from a lot of the vegetable sources and you go toward the meat sources, just combining sardines, beef liver, eggs, you know, as a standalone sort of diet where you have those main four. And then you're using the grease from the bacon. Did I say bacon? Because I do think bacon's in there. I do. I think bacon's a huge driving force, and even more so you could say pork. Beef, pork, eggs. And I would definitely throw chicken in there as well. And then obviously fish with sardines. So really the more variety that you're taking in, but the same thing holds true with a vegan or a vegetarian, where you're taking from the land, from the sea, you know, different areas, different seasons, and you're amalgamating those together and trying to create the most solid, nutritionally dense diet that you possibly can. You can do it either way. It's just that it's obviously more expensive to do when you're going for vegetable sources, because so much more goes into cultivation. That may not be something that carries forth into the future. All right. Still a little warm. That looks beautiful though. Got that nice grease. Yeah. Got that bacon fat resting on the top. It's good stuff. Let that cool down a little bit. That's got a great flavor. Much higher quality beef patties than quality ones at Walmart. I think they might have bought out or just tried to do a stand-in for the Shack burgers. So at this point, I'm just beginning to feel like I'm going overly aerobic, right? I could feel that, right? So this is where we're sort of thinking about, I need more fuel. We want to create a hunger mechanism. Ate a little beef liver, 6 pieces of bacon, walking, blood flow, systemic blood flow, talking, innervating the diaphragm, conjecturing, what am I going to do? You know, some lower back, lower body, back. Maybe going in and working the tries again because I really want to bring up my arms. Obviously the shoulders are a big issue. Maybe we'll do some of that. We're gonna set one of these patties aside. We're gonna pour a little grease. You ever seen The Greasy Strangler? What a trippy movie that was. What a weird movie, but startling, strikingly a critique on society. We all like to pretend it isn't so. We all like to pretend, don't we? It's so asinine that it just doesn't make any sense. So here we have it. Olive oil, EVOO, plus omega-3 rich. We're not gonna be perfect with it. That's why we train. I don't know if you can even see that, but it's a big old blob of mayo on there. Cooked it in with some mustard. You just got this big old blob of mayo on top of that. Oh yeah, that's good. That is good. Just eating the beef. That mayo just tastes different. It's got a great flavor. So we're going to be signing out, and then we may be signing right back in. I may want to rest a little bit. Chill back for a minute, and then allow my body to prompt me. This is everyday training. No breaks. Started out with beef liver. Did a 3-mile semi-casual indoor walk. Goal is to just do multiple training sessions, always moving throughout the day. Short rest and recovery periods. We're going to save the rest of that grease. And we're going to cook some eggs in that bacon and beef grease. Mm-hmm. That one crushed up real quick, easy. It all works in together, and then we'll hit some water with some ACV. Pour a little bit of that in there. All right. So even when we're cooking, we're moving. You see how this is? Has there been a time where I really haven't been moving? I mean, even eating, biting. Like some people, you're thumbing and watching probably. You're probably not doing anything but just sitting there and watching. And that's okay if you took a break. But we'll be coming to you live with a training session next.